Moving on to the underbelly. Here's your underbelly. Fur direction should be this way. What I would recommend, at least what has worked best for me, is to actually sew on the leg side. So obviously, flip this over, lay it down, pin it up, and sew it together with the leg piece being under the foot. And of course the same side, or the same method for the other leg. Keep in mind these are the front legs. Oh, move that over. Just pin them together, line them up, pin them together, sew it together. And the under legs, pretty similar. Line it up with the right sides facing, pin it together, sew it together. Now, instead of the leg piece for the other side being under the presser foot, since you would already have these two pieces sewn together, you want to start where they are already sewn together and sew off to where they are not sewn together. So in essence, you would do the same. You'd line these up, pin them together, and sew them, but you would actually have this side, you would actually have the underbelly under the presser foot. Alright, let's get going. You will want to manage this as you're sewing. Make sure it stays aligned fairly well. That's not too bad. My sewing is a little off with this camera, but it's not too bad, all things considering. Here we go with the front leg here. Now you might want to backtrack on this a little bit because of the front leg. It could get stressed. All right. That's aligned fairly well. Now we have the underbelly sewn together. I would like to make a quick note. When you do sew the front legs, what I like to do is, you know how I seal off the edge of the seams by going forward, going back, and going forward a little more, forward a little more. I do the same thing right here in the middle of these particular seams, and of course on the end, as these being the front legs, they could get a little bit more stress, so you want to make sure that they have plenty of strength to them. And of course on the back leg, when you sew them, so this side from here to here, you will have to manage this as you sew along so they align better on this side. Of course, when you sew this, the opposite leg, you have to sew on this side, ideally, so they align where they already meet together here, these two pieces. Oops. Okay. And you'll have to manage this, which can be a little bit more difficult. I had the camera there, so that made it a little difficult. It's a little off, as you can tell, but that kind of deviation usually doesn't amount to too much. The reason why I sew on this side with this side facing up, this particular leg, the leg's facing up rather than the underbelly. Because if you get offset on the underbelly, say you sew it a little bit more to here or a little bit further out, then that just means you have a horizontal difference rather than a vertical difference in the height of your legs. So you don't really want one leg longer or shorter than the other, or you will have balancing issues. Even if you try to sew as best you can, you're going to get some deviation. You can't get perfection. And next up, of course, we'll be sewing these two together along this seam. So starting again where they are joined together. So from here to here, and that'll be kind of part of the butt. Onward to sewing the rest of the body together. Here we have the side. Lines up with this leg. What I like to do is pin from here all the way down to here, and also pin all the way from here. Match it up with this right here, and pin all the way down, and then sew those two sides together.